guys, and welcome to this video. I'm Ellen, and we're going to talk about some movies. Mainly the movies that I watched in the month of February. I watched a total of 7 movies. Well, I also did some rewatches. We'll get to those. The new movies that I watched, there were 7 of them. And let's do some stats on the movies. Let's start with genre, because why not? And this one we only have 3 different genres spread out between the 7 movies. So I watched 2 horror movies, 2 rom-coms, and 3 action-adventure. So I watched a total of 696 minutes of these movies. So that kind of averages, I mean, obviously this isn't how it happened, but it averages to about 25 minutes a day. The shortest movie I watched was 86 minutes. And then the longest movie I watched was 117 minutes. My stars are not that spread out for this one, like they are for the books. I watched 1 2-star, 5 4-stars, and 1 4.5 star. So my average star rating came to about like 3.7, which is not that bad, but I still want it to be better than that. I think that's it for stats, so we can just go straight into the movies now. And we're gonna start with the rewatches, so the movies that I rewatched and like not talk about those, and then we'll go into the movies that I watched for the first time and talk about those. So I do not have a lot of rewatches. There are only 2, and that's One Direction, This Is Us, and How to Train Your Dragon. Now on to the new movies. So we're going to do this in order of star rating. So we're going to start with the lowest star rated movie and work our way up to the highest. So we'll start with my lowest star rating, which was Kim Possible. I mean, no surprise that this is a very low star rating. This is the brand new live action Kim Possible movie that happened on Disney Channel. And I really enjoyed the TV show Kim Possible growing up. It was one of my favorites. I was very excited to hear that they were making a live action Kim Possible movie. It was not great. If you don't know Kim Possible, it was a show about this like girl who goes to like middle school or high school or something like that, but she also saves the world. And when she saves the world from bad guys, she's known as Kim Possible. In school, she's just known as Kim. And she has her friend slash sidekick, Ron Stoppable, who is hysterical. And that's pretty much the premise of the show, and that's also the premise of the movie. So we also brought back her main villains, which are Draco and Shigo. Or no, Draken and Shigo. I really enjoyed Shigo in the live action. She had like some really great lines, and she was great. And Ron Stoppable in the live action was really good as well. They were my 2 favorite characters, the only 2 characters I actually liked in the movie. The plot was like the funniest thing I think I have ever watched in a movie. Draken and Shigo, their evil plan is to steal Kim Possible's spark and put that spark into Draken, so Draken can succeed for once in his life. But like, they're trying to steal Kim Possible's spark. They're trying to steal what makes Kim Possible, which doesn't make any sense. Another thing I really did not like about this movie was the mom and the grandmom, which, by the way, I don't remember there being a grandma in the cartoon version at all. And also the mom, her family doesn't know that she's Kim Possible and she goes and saves the world. Like, her family doesn't know this. But yet, for some reason, in this movie, the mom and the grandma know all about it, so they go and tag along with her. But also, they were not needed there. Like, if the mom and the grandma had not been there, I feel like the whole ending would have just gone better and it would have happened quicker. I don't know, I just felt like the mom and the grandma were so not needed. Maybe the mom was needed, but like, the mom was not needed in a sense where she didn't need to know that her daughter was Kim Possible. But apparently in this live action, everybody knows that she's Kim Possible. Like, even the students, but yet she's still not popular, which didn't make any sense to me. I, of course, saw the ending coming. This movie is incredibly predictable, but then again, it is for kids, so I can't read too much into that. But I do, however, think it does have some like good messages for kids that are watching it. I also love the Christy Carlson Romano cameo. She made a little tiny cameo. In case you don't know, Christy Carlson Romano is the person who voiced Kim Possible. Oh, another thing I really loved about this movie though, we got an origin story for the naked mole rat. We got to see how Ron got the naked mole rat, and that was very fun and exciting, and I loved how they did the naked mole rat for live action. I thought they did that very well. It looked realistic. Overall, was very meh. Not something I'd ever want to watch again. So yeah, so that was 2 out of 5 stars. So the next one I want to talk about is the Lego Movie 2. I absolutely loved the first Lego movie, and I loved the Lego Batman movie. I wasn't too keen on the Lego Ninjago movie, but when I heard that they were making a second movie for the Lego movie, was so excited. I had a lot of high hopes and a lot of high expectations, but Lego Movie 2 basically picks up right where the Lego movie left off, but also kind of like, I think 5 years later maybe, and they're in this like apocalyptic world, and like everyone's like mean, and not like they're not mean, but they're like angry and they're tough, except for Emmett. He's still, everything is awesome and happy-go-lucky. But then some other characters come into play and kidnap the main characters of the movie, except for Emmett. And Emmett has to go and find them. I don't know how to say any more without giving much away, because I really enjoyed the ending of this movie, and I really enjoyed, again, like the message that it gave. And I really enjoyed that we saw more of the live action. So we saw more of like the kids that are playing with the Legos, and just how like 5 years has changed the way they play with Legos. It was a fun movie. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it was super fun, and I really enjoyed the ending. Like I said, like I enjoyed all of those aspects, but there was a good amount that I was kind of like meh about. Like, it was definitely not the first movie, in a sense where like it kind of had a similar plot to the first movie, but it didn't have the same feel and the same like charm as the first movie, because I loved that first movie. So it still had like the comedy and the heart that the first movie had. It couldn't live up to the original, unfortunately. It had a lot of plot twist moments. Like, there was just, it felt like there was like a plot twist after plot twist, and I really enjoyed that about it. But however, the movie did fall flat for me writing wise. I felt like the comedy got a little tiring as it went on. Like, I just kept getting more and more used to the comedy, that it just didn't get as funny. The whole Rex Dangerfield thing kind of confused me by the end, when they were explaining Rex Dangerfield and how like he came to be. Confused me a little bit, and just, I don't know, I couldn't get on board with Rex Dangervest. I also absolutely hated the songs. There wasn't really any song I liked, but the main song for the movie just annoyed the hell out of me. So overall, it was fun, and I enjoyed like the themes and the morals and all that stuff, but it did not live up to the original. So 4 out of 5 stars. The next movie I want to talk about is Isn't It Romantic? And I enjoyed this one, but not as much as I wanted to, if that makes sense. So this is a romantic comedy. We follow someone whose name I can't remember. Even the actress's name I can't remember. Oh, Rebel Wilson. There we go. We'll just go with actors' names. So we follow Rebel Wilson. She absolutely hates romantic comedies. So she ended up hitting her head, and she wakes up in a romantic comedy. She finds herself living a romantic comedy, and like guys are hitting on her, and everything just like looks beautiful. In order to get herself out of the romantic comedy, she has to find out the plot of her romantic comedy and just like go with that plot line. There were parts about it I liked and parts about it I didn't like. So I love rom-coms, so obviously I'm going to enjoy it. And I loved the gay sidekick. Like, he was so like over dramatic and cliche, and I think that's what a lot of this movie did. Like, a lot of it was like cliche and over dramatic and just like really went with the themes of romantic comedies. But I think it worked with the gay sidekick. The rest of the movie didn't quite work for me cliche wise. I think the movie They Came Together did a lot better with that than this one. This is another movie where the comedy got tiring by the end. It was also super predictable. I could totally see where the movie was going. I thought it had a really great cast. I thought, yeah, the cast was amazing. I just feel like the writing and the story was just a little too exaggerated for me and just way too predictable. And usually I don't mind predictability in rom-coms. That's why I watch them. But for some reason it bothered me with this one, so I don't quite know. Either way, I enjoyed it, so I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The next movie I want to talk about is What Men Want. This didn't get a lot of praise. Like, not a lot of people like this movie, but I really loved this movie. This is kind of a remake of the movie What Women Want, where, was it Mel Gibson that was in that movie? I think it was Mel Gibson. He can hear women's thoughts, and it makes him a better man. In this one, we follow Tarish P. Henson. What is her name? She hits her head, and she wakes up in the hospital hearing men's thoughts. And I had such a fun time with this movie, I'm not gonna lie. I really enjoyed this one. I absolutely found it hilarious. I was laughing out loud in the theater watching this. It was so funny, and I really enjoyed the ending of the movie too. I thought it was just a really great ending. There were a lot of things that seemed unrealistic in this movie, and I'm not talking about the fact that she can hear men's thoughts. I'm talking more about like what the thoughts actually were. I feel like they were very like cliche to what women think men say, but it's probably not what men actually think. And then also there were times the main character was hard to like because she could be a real bitch sometimes. I think the reason I was able to get on board with her though was because you can understand why she's being a bitch even though she doesn't have to be that way. You can see why she feels like she has to be that way. And then I also liked her because by the end, you know, she's not so much of a bitch anymore and she has seen the error of her ways and she realized like, wow, I've like pushed everyone away out of my life. And so she becomes more likable. So it's one of those things where even though she was really hard to like sometimes, I could still get on board with her. I really enjoyed this one a lot. 4 out of 5 stars. The next one I want to talk about is How to Train Your Dragon 2. I feel like there was more to the title, but I can't remember it. This movie came out back in, what, 2014? And it took me now to finally watch it, which, by the way, How to Train Your Dragon 3 is not in here, because I tried my best to watch it, but with the last week of February, it just got so stressful and my mood was just not a good mood. I was not in a good place mentally the whole last week of February, so I didn't get a chance to go to the movies and watch it. But you will be seeing How to Train Your Dragon 3 in the March wrap-up. Anyway, back to How to Train Your Dragon 2. This is the sequel to the first How to Train Your Dragon, which I watched back in high school, and I loved it. It was one of those movies where I was like, it's a kid's movie, I'm not gonna like it. And then one of my friends saw it and she like raved about it, so I was like, okay. And I eventually got the chance to watch that one. And I was like, oh my god, I loved it. So when they came out with the second one, I was excited, but I just never saw it. So I finally saw it now, and I absolutely loved this movie. It's still a children's movie, but it's so great. It's such a well done movie series as well. I just absolutely love the animation style, and I love how like when they're on the dragons, you kind of feel like you're on the dragon with them with how they did the animation and how they did the camera work. With this movie, again, I don't really want to describe, I don't really want to explain this movie in case you haven't seen the first one, but the first one, How to Train Your Dragon, we're in a place, we're in a land where there's people that kind of represent Vikings, and then we also have dragons, and the Vikings are fighting the dragons, except for one of the Vikings, Hiccup, who does not look like a Viking at all. He's very scrawny, meek, and he ends up befriending the, like, meanest dragon there is. Like, the most dangerous one. A Night Fury. He ends up befriending the Night Fury and ends up becoming a dragon rider and tries to, like, teach his town to be nice to the dragons and whatnot. It's very fun, and so this movie takes place pretty much right at the end of the first movie. But this one we see more lands and more people and how they are dealing with dragons. And it's very interesting. The villain in this movie, Drago, was interesting. He was super mean. I'm not sure how Drago got control of his dragon. That's something I would like to know, because it was kind of confusing. They didn't really explain it well enough, so I don't know how he really got control over his dragon, which is like, his dragon was a big deal. His dragon was like the alpha dragon. There were some surprises in this one that I did not expect that I really enjoyed. It was pretty emotionally powerful. I didn't expect it, because the first movie, it wasn't like too sad, and there wasn't like that much of like an emotional punch, but this movie had some emotional punches, so that was rough. That was tough to watch. But I really enjoyed this new villain and this storyline with the sequel, and I again really enjoyed the animation. It was just visually very beautiful. I enjoyed this one as much as the first one. I just felt like this one might have been a little bit too long. They could have definitely shortened it a bit, but overall really liked it, so 4 out of 5 stars. Now, the last two movies I want to talk about, one of them is 4 stars, the other is 4.5 stars. But I can't talk about the 4-star one without talking about the 4.5 star one first. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to switch it just a little bit. So I'm going to talk about my 4.5 star, and then I'll talk about the 4 stars. No, we can actually talk about them together. So the 4.5 star is Happy Death Day, and the 4.5 star is Happy Death Day to You. These are both horror comedies, mainly on the comedy, but there is a lot of horror elements to it. I remember watching the trailer for the first one and being like, oh, that looks fun, but I probably won't see it. And then I watched the trailer for the second one, and I was like, oh my god, I really want to see the second one. So I was like, alright, I'll watch the first one, and then I'll watch the second one. And surprisingly, I absolutely loved both of these. The first movie, Happy Death Day, gave it a 4.5 star rating. It was amazing. Like, I honestly want to rewatch it right now just thinking about it. So we follow Tree. Found that to be a very odd name. I'm hoping it's like short for Trina or something like that. But we follow Tree, who is not a very nice person. Like, she is horrible. She's part of a sorority at her college. She's very like stuck up and just bitchy and, you know, the whole cliche. And then she wakes up and it's the same day. So she ends up living the same day over and over again. And at the end of the day, every single time, she dies. So when she dies, she wakes up and it's the day starting all over again. And so it's basically just trying to solve like who is killing her. But it ends up becoming more than that, because she also learns to be a better person along the way. It's really, really fun and interesting. And then the second movie, Happy Death Day to You, picks up basically right where the first one left off. And then she has to relive the same day again, but she finds out that she's reliving the same day in a different dimension. And this dimension is a little bit different than her other dimension. And also with the second movie, we find out why she is reliving the same day over and over again. So it answered some questions from the first movie, but so it almost becomes like sci-fi as well. It's very interesting. It's very weird and odd, but it's so good, and it is horror. It does have a lot of jump scares, which are usually my least favorite thing. Like, I hate jump scares. It's why I don't like watching horror movies. But this has like, it's very wacky and kooky that the horror works for me, and I don't mind the horror. Watching the trailer for the second movie, don't do it, because it does ruin the ending of the first movie. because in the trailer for the second movie, it tells you who the killer is in the first movie. That did not take away from my enjoyment of the movie, which thank God, but I'm just warning you if that's what you want to do. Yeah. But then in the second movie, the killer is someone else, and so now we gotta try to find out who the killer is in this alternate dimension. She also has to come to terms with, like, does she want to stay in this dimension or does she want to leave and go back to her dimension? Because there are some perks to this new dimension, but there are also some, like, bad things that she doesn't like about this dimension. The acting is absolutely incredible in both of these. The main actress, Jessica Rothy, she does a fantastic job. Oh my god. And even just like the filming of this movie, like the way it was shot and the way it was told, I can see how that can be so difficult, because if you're reliving the same day over and over again, you have to film the same shots over and over, but they have to also look different so you know that it's a different day. So I thought they did that very well. So it blends like horror and humor together very well. And I just love how the story is built, like from when it begins to like when it ends, just the way they build the whole story. So good and just so fun. And the second one is just as fun as the first one, and like, but it adds like this twist, this like sci-fi twist to it, which was really cool. Some of the sci-fi elements in the second one did get a little bit confusing. The one issue I have with this movie series, but I think it's like a cliche for all horror movies, but like no one works at this hospital. You go to the hospital and like you're running around, she's like running around with like an axe trying to like find the murderer, and there is nobody working in this hospital except the one lady at like the desk. And like for some reason there's no lighting in the hospital either. It just bugged me so much. I was like, why is there like no one at this hospital? They kind of explained it in the second movie a little bit, but it just still bugged me so much that like nobody is in this hospital. Really enjoyed it. So the second one is 4 stars. The first one is 4.5 stars. And then I'm hoping there's a third one. Stay till the end of the second one, because there is a scene after the credits that might reveal a third movie, which I'd be so down for. So those are all the movies that I watched in the month of February. Please go also watch my book wrap-up for February, as well as just my monthly overall wrap-up for February. And so then that is it. I will see you guys later with more videos. Bye!